This is the Chicago Bulls, assuming we have the alphabet right.
Oh yeah, wow! I was in my head was.
Oh, you didn't have it right. You had the alphabet wrong. It was me last time. Now it's you.
The alphabet's so hard.
It's so hard. And you learn it early, and then you use it all the time, and you forget it. But I'm going to start with Chicago because CH comes before CL and all the other letter combinations in here. That's so great. This is all organic. These alphabet mistakes are so real, everyone. And
actually, it's a little concerning.
It's a little concerning. I can't listen to you. The guy doesn't know the alphabet because he has a lip ring. That's the problem.
Yeah, that's what. And also, because I have a lip ring, I forgot to mention for anyone who hasn't listened to these before, I will be setting an alarm in the background to keep things moving. So don't be alarmed when you hear the alarm. How's that?
Bad.
That's lip ring humor right there.
Do not endorse. Key free agents for the Chicago Bulls. Nikola Vucevic. Ayo Dosunmu is restricted. Kobe White also restricted. Derek Jones Jr. Did I say Colby? Kobe White. You put it. Geez, you and your spelling. Derek Jones Jr. Andre Drummond has a player option. Patrick Beverley is also a free agent. Patrick Williams, interesting extension candidate. Pretty hard to evaluate rookie year and subsequent seasons, but eligible for an extension nonetheless. The Bulls cap situation is basically that they should have the full mid-level exception to spend. They don't have any trade exceptions. So we do need to have a macro discussion about this team's overall direction, but probably first we should hit some of their needs, assuming they don't do a overhaul, blow up, whatever, tear down, whatever you want to call it, which, spoiler alert, I will just endorse. But what do you think?
And the view rating drops at that point in the video.
Assuming they don't trade Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, blah, blah, blah.
So I've had a lot of Bulls fans say that they need a real point guard, and I disagree. I think if you had more shooting on this team, it would offset whatever inclination you have to get it. Like you have DeMar DeRozan, you have Zach LaVine, you have like Alex Caruso, Ayo Dosunmu. You won't have Lonzo Ball. That's really unfortunate. He's expected to miss all of next season. I really hope that we get to see him play basketball again because that absolutely sucks.
Yeah,
I would prioritize shooting, and can you upgrade the front line rotating? Like, this is also a team that could use some more true wings. It could use an upgrade at center from Nikola Vucevic, but I don't really know. He might have them in the bird rights trap just because who are you going to sign with the mid-level exception that's better than Nikola Vucevic, who had a solid year for them. And so the path is to continue trying to contend in the Eastern Conference. I think their biggest moves will happen via trade if they happen at all. But I think you have to re-sign Vooch. And then it's, can we acquire, like, I really like Max Strus for this team, or maybe even a Josh Richardson, just like a wing type who can shoot. Max Strus is a better fit in terms of volume and just like off ball motion and the difficulty on his 3-pointers. That's the route. If they're going to continue to try and win around this core route, I think they need to prioritize shooting probably more in addition to, I guess, talent retention.
Yeah, I guess I think that's right. But yeah, just the idea that, like, really, DeRozan and LaVine are both better on the ball, certainly DeRozan than off. So I think the theory of the team, when Lonzo was healthy, it made perfect sense. He's a connector. Like Alex Caruso is not a, going to pick and roll point guard either. It's just, you have your offense, maybe the term is like offensive initiators as opposed to point guards. You sort of have that. And then certainly you have that if you bring White back or Dosunmu or both. Seems unlikely, but yeah. So I want to do the macro question here real quick before our timer dings at us. Do you bring Vucevic back? If so, for how much? Do you entertain trading LaVine? Like, what are your tear down or tear down adjacent thoughts? Because my position is kind of for a while been like, this team is, not Wizards level, but they're just kind of chasing mediocrity. They gave up all these picks in the Orlando trade, which finally that thing's complete now. All those picks have conveyed, and just, the further we get away from it, the worse it looks. So my inclination would be to make some wholesale changes and start over. Do you subscribe to that? Like in total, in part, what are your thoughts macro on the Bulls?
I would subscribe to it in total, I think. And I also believe, and I think a lot of Bulls fans are on that train. Like, it seems from just like what I've seen them say that they're all in if this organization were to actually rebuild. And unless there's a deal out there, which is really tough to build because you do oh, that 2025 pick to San Antonio, it's top 10 protected, but it leaks out a little bit. So it makes pulling off your own big trade really difficult unless someone's ridiculously high on Patrick Williams and that Blazers pick that is protected through 2028 coming to you. I think you get a lot. I don't know what you get for DeMar DeRozan going into the final year of his deal. That's really tough. And I think you get a good amount for Zach LaVine, though. I think people have overblown the state of his contract, even in this new CBA climate. You're not going to get like this Bradley Beal-esque return. In part, he doesn't have a no trade clause. He's also a player that I think would be more open to more. He doesn't have the connection to the organization that Damian Lillard does to Portland, where you're going to say, well, we're going to send you where you want to go. They would work with the player, I'm sure, but you could send him to more destinations. And I don't think you're going to get a Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert type haul, but again, all it takes is one team. You might get the equivalent of 3-4 first round picks or prospects. And that's a good launching point for your rebuild. I think you could get a first round pick for Alex Caruso. What is interesting is as part of any tear, I think, could you get at least a first round pick for DeMar DeRozan? I don't mean to, he's been unreal for them the past two seasons. But like, are you the bank on knowing his age, his specific fit? And like if you're the Bulls and you want to win, or if you're another team and you want that version of DeMar DeRozan, you're just banking on bonkers shot making in high leverage situations where you're almost waiting for him to fall off.
Yeah, he's a very specific fit that you have to have the right type of players around, I think, to make sense. But as like an expiring that you could just come for you, I'm struggling to think of the team that, like a really good team that needs offense, because chances are you're not going to become a really good team if you just don't have a bunch of ways to score.
Well,
but yeah, I think
Lakers give up their pick and like take him into cap space, or maybe you work it. They could do the Bamba Beasley thing for DeMar DeRozan.
Yeah, I don't hate it because, well, they're a perfect example of it. Their defense was great, and then they struggled to score all season and in the playoffs, even after they remade the roster. So yeah, that's a fit in the LA thing if you want to factor that into. I think he's absolutely worth a first. It's going to take. He's worth a first to the right team. But the quote unquote right team is probably limited to like 8 or 10 teams.
I have a team.
Let me hear.
I don't know if anyone's talked about. You could build it. It would probably take 2 contracts, one of which you know right off the bat, and then you have to figure it out from there. Boston needs another ball handler.
The theory is he prevents those bogged down possessions where the ball swings around and they generate nothing, basically.
Much iffier this side of the Kristaps Porzingis trade, I would think.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
How much you give if it's Brogdon plus salary plus then, okay, the asset, what does Chicago want for it?
That's interesting. I would not have thought of Boston, but I mean, look, the problem with the Porzingis trade is it did not address the team's problem. And also, DeRozan's a pretty good passer too. Like,
he's a very good passer.
It's not just he's going to get you the 16-footer. It's he's going to get into his space and then find somebody maybe. Yeah, I think he does. The Porzingis trade did not address that deficiency in Boston's offense. I think a DeRozan move would. That's just like, I'd never thought of that. I don't know how to wrap my head around that one yet, but that's pretty interesting. That's why you get paid the big bucks, I think.
The big bucks. Sorry. I don't think the Bulls, would they saddle themselves with the health risk of, okay, we already paying Lonzo and now Brogdon's playing, but like the Clippers refused that trade. That's just a team. Like, I think there are teams out there that would give you a first. So my point was, what gets interesting is if you're tearing it down, are you keeping or moving Patrick Williams with his extension eligibility?
Yeah, follow-up question. What's the number for him? Because that informs whether you're keeping just some of the. So oh man, we're already through the Bulls. Real quick, is Patrick Williams? He's been disappointing. Is that fair to say? As you know, number 4 pick, like hasn't.
He somewhat feels buried in the offensive pecking order though. So I just don't know if he's been. And there was the injuries at the start. I would say he has failed to meet expectations. Okay. Yes, is a fair way to put it.
And yet, career 41.4% 3-point shooter. Not a ton of volume, but 2.6 attempts per game. He's played 170 games. Like, that's not nothing. Can defend, is like a big forward that like somewhere in there, and he's going into his age 22 season. So I think if I'm rebuilding, I probably keep him around, assuming I can do it for, nothing more than like solid starter money, I think.
So DeAndre Hunter's contract, like 4 for $90.
That feels really scary, but the cap's going up. I mean, probably not that high, but that's not insane.